Welcome back, my students, to a brand new episode of Comic Class. And in today's lesson, guys, we look at the Amazing Spider-Man issue 8. And yeah, guys, we have two stories to talk about in today's video, so I want to jump right into this. If you haven't already, subscribed for more Stan Lee and Steve Ditko Spider-Man, covering the entire run from Amazing Fantasy number 15 through the Amazing Spider-Man number 1 through number 38. And yeah, without any further ado, let's jump right into today's story. Let's go. So our story starts off with a professor coming to the class of Peter Parker, and he's basically showing something off called the living brain, a machine that can tell any answer that you give it. And Peter is getting bullied by Flash once again, where Flash goes overboard and actually causes Peter Parker's glasses to break. This leads the two to get into an argument, saying that they want to fight each other, which is really cool, and it's something that has been coming since the Amazing Spider-Man, issue 1. Now, the living brain, as the professor says, he wants Peter Parker to come up here and do a demonstration, and the students ask, what is Spider-Man's identity? There's also a couple of crooks here. They're gonna try stealing the living brain as well, so keep that in mind. And yeah, they ask who is Spider-Man, and Peter starts freaking out because there's a chance that the living brain might guess correctly and, reveal his secret identity. Peter realizes that the living brain is giving a type of decoding message, so it's not going to say it right out, so you kind of have to know what it's saying. But the professor tells him that he'll definitely be able to decode it for him in a little bit. And the crooks are about to make their move whenever Flash tries to pick a fight with Peter once again by trying to take the decoding message from him. And the professor tells them that he's seen that they're kind of like at odds with each other this entire class, and he wants them to settle their differences in the gym today. So we cut to the gym where Peter and Flash are both gonna put on some boxing gloves and have a boxing match to show each other, who's boss, and to kind of get this bullying over with, that for Peter to show that he's not someone that needs to be messed with every day. So Peter is in a type of situation that he can't really go all out, just he would probably decapitate the, Flash if he were to, not pull his punches. I think there's even an issue with Spider-Man where Dr. Octopus is in control of Spider-Man's body, or in Spider-Man's body, and he takes off the Scorpion's jaw or something. So yeah, Spider-Man constantly pulls his punches, even when he's, not saying it. And he pulls his punch. He's dodging Flash so fast that it seems like he's always just out of reach, when in reality he's actually dodging his attacks, his punches, which shows the speed that Spider-Man has. And by, not even putting just like a little ounce of his power behind his punch, is able to knock Flash clear out the ring. And yeah, the kids think that Flash is joking and telling him to get back in there and take out, Peter. And while that's happening, we can see the two crooks attack the professor, that I guess is the one that created the living brain. And while they attack him, one of the crooks hits the control panel on the living brain, causing it to go berserk and haywire. And yeah, it's basically going to try, destroying everybody, or, just causing destruction all over the place, like, collateral damage and stuff like that. We cut back to the fight with Peter and Flash. And while, Peter and Flash are having a fight, Peter's about to land the final blow to knock Flash out whenever they hear some sounds, calling for help because of the living brain going crazy. And Flash turns his head, and Peter accidentally hits him while his guard is, down, and he knocks, Flash out. And the students kind of boo him for it because, it was a foul, because Flash wasn't even looking at him while it happened. Peter's not happy about this win either, but he is glad that he held back and that, Flash won't be really hurt, but instead, just knocked out. So while Peter takes Flash to, I guess the locker room, so that, he can be there until he, wakes up, he gets into a costume and he goes and takes on the living brain. and he is able to free his classmates, and gets everyone out of the building while he takes on the living brain. The living brain is full on machine, so nothing that Spider-Man does is going to cause it any pain. So it's just going to keep going until it destroys everything. Eventually, Peter's able to deactivate the machine, but not before it's going to fall down some stairs through a window. Peter's able to web them both back inside the building, and he was able to shut off the living brain. And while the Croods are trying to, get away, the professor, tells them that they need to try stopping them, because they're the ones that caused this entire situation. Flash wakes up and is, getting himself, dressed, and he's tying his shoes whenever the Croods accidentally, fall on top of him and knock themselves out. And Peter uses this opportunity to kind of get the classmates to think that Flash is actually Spider-Man, mentioning that he was the only one that was trying to get the paper from Peter to see who Spider-Man was. In a way, could be trying to protect his secret identity, and also that he was able to knock out these two giant men, quite easily without even knowing what he did, supposedly. And it's pretty funny to see Flash trying to, try to validate himself, try to make it to where he's not guilty, he's not Spider-Man, but the classmates are convinced that he must be Spider-Man. And it's just a very funny end to this issue, and we get to see Peter just, singing, whistling down the road, in just his Peter Parker uniform, basically, just being Peter Parker. So now we go into the second story in issue 8, where it's Spider-Man tackles the Torch. And it seems like the Human Torch is having a sort of party at his mansion or something like that. And Peter doesn't take kindly to how the Human Torch flaunts around how awesome he is and his fans and all that. So Peter makes a bat out of, webbing, and kind of like just, swings it around, I guess, or he made it like fly off of like off a net or something, kind of like a slingshot. And it makes, the party guests kind of scared. And, Johnny tries to attack it and gets webbed in the process. And this kind of like tips the Human Torch off. Even the guests themselves are a little tipped off that Spider-Man is being so tacky, in coming to the Human Torch's party and doing something like this. And the Human Torch is not happy. So after Spider-Man meets a show of himself, he tries to exit the building basically and gets the Human Torch to follow him, where they have a fight on a beach. And this fight is pretty interesting. We get to see the Human Torch utilize, his heat abilities. Spider-Man tries to use sand to get him to like cool down, but this just gets the Human Torch even more mad, and he uses these type of like fire discs to try to attack Spider-Man. He eventually does this giant fireball, and Spider-Man tries to escape. But when Spider-Man tries to escape, he realizes that the rest of the Fantastic Four are watching their battle, and he gets kind of tipped off that they're laughing at him, thinking he doesn't have a chance against the Human Torch. And they basically tell him that he might have bitten more than he can chew. So he gets in a fight with Mr. Fantastic and the Thing, and it's a really interesting battle. But Sue Storm grabs, Peter while being invisible and tells him that he needs to chill out. And she even kind of like flirts with Spider-Man, saying that he's probably more handsome under the mask, and it's just pretty funny. Eventually, she wants the Human Torch and Spider-Man to make up, and Spider-Man just, leaves, saying that they're all uncool except, for, the Human Torch's sister, Sue. And he actually webs out a heart for her, and you can tell that Mr. Fantastic was not happy that Sue was flirting with Spider-Man, saying that, he's probably handsome under the mask. He's like crossing his arms in the panel when she says that. It's pretty funny, and that's how the issue ends. And, that was just like a little mini story. It feels definitely like a little filler that they put in there just for fan service, for people that want to see Spider-Man take on the Fantastic Four again, because people probably loved that in issue 1. And it, shows that back then in the 60s that they would do stuff like this to please the fans. And that's awesome. And I wish we'd see more stuff like that in modern comic books. And, just doing a little bit of fan service doesn't really harm anybody. As long as you, keep to the plot in the main story, it should be fine, which we saw with the Spider-Man versus the Living Brain. And that was the Amazing Spider-Man issue 8, guys. We covered 2 stories. And I did prefer the first story because I didn't think that had a lot more depth to it. And it was cool to see Spider-Man stand up for himself against Flash, Peter Parker against Flash, because it was something that was built up all these 7 issues to finally seeing them go at it. And I hope that Flash develops more as a character. I do know they become friends eventually in the series, so I hope that we get to see that in the future. And the Human Torch Spider-Man fight was pretty interesting, as well as seeing him fighting against the other 3 Fantastic Four members as well. And the dynamic with, Sue Storm and Spider-Man was really funny, because she probably sees him more like a little brother than, romantic, considering she's with Mr. Fantastic. But yeah, it was a really good issue. But I really hope that we get to see Spider-Man interact with more Marvel heroes in the future, the Amazing Spider-Man issues. Even if it's not in this run, hopefully some other run we get to see more superheroes interact with the Amazing Spider-Man. And yeah, until the next video, guys, God bless you, and until the next lesson, keep on reading those comments.